Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of The Stable. So hopefully the dog's barking outside isn't going to be too bad for the video. But today we are going to be messing around with Red. So the Bullitt intake has to come back off because the pump for the line for the water pump is leaking and is dripping on the backside header. So I want to get that addressed before we start racing again. Went ahead and ordered a new aftercooler from Vortec. So hopefully within the next couple weeks that gets here. So we got those two things. Before we race again, we also want to, the Fox body springs we put on the back a couple videos ago, we're gonna cut like another half of a coil off because Team Z says to cut, I believe it's a full coil, and I think we only did half. So we're gonna cut those down a little bit more. And I'm going to be trying to get this two-step figured out again as well. So that should make Red pretty solid and ready to race. I also need to find out what's going on with the oil leak that we thought we had fixed last season. But I'm not going to go too far into detail about this pulling this intake off and everything, since you've guys seen me do it in the little video series I did about the whole Bullitt intake swap. So we're just going to pop this thing off. Hopefully it's not going to take too long since I know where everything goes and how it's hooked up now. So I'm really just hoping to pop it off, figure out why that pipe's leaking, come up with a fix for it, slap it back together, and I guess we'll see if we can get it done in a day. We also have ordered a couple more things for Red. Safety should be a pretty big concern. So we're finally putting a drive shaft safety loop on this thing, and we ordered the Team Z full length subframe connectors. My dad actually got the same ones for his Fox, but we are going to be putting those on here as well. Really, it's just been a bunch of research and trying to figure out how to make this thing hook up better, because based off what I've done for the suspension, there should be no reason why I can't get into the 1.6 range. So we're gonna put those subframe connectors on there. That should help things out, at least stiffen the car up. And then hopefully we'll go back down to the track without breaking this thing and seeing how much better of a 60-foot we can get out of it. So that's the plan with Red, and we'll go ahead and get this thing apart. All right, everyone, so just wanted to do a quick update. I had to transfer the coolant over into those jugs over there that we had because our bucket was full. So a little bit of a mess, but got the coolant draining. Doesn't look like much, but we got fuel lines disconnected. We got a bunch of the wiring harness out of the way. The bracket on top of the alternator just needs the 2 bolts removed. So once I do the bracket, I got these 2 coolant lines on the back of the intake that need to come off. Hopefully we can get back there and get the neck of the intake off. And then once that happens, the EGR tube over here is loose. I have it zip tied with a rag on it so it doesn't scrape anything up. But so hopefully once the neck is off, we can get that EGR tube out of there. And then the fuel rail will come out, and then we'll just hit these ARP bolts for the intake and lift the intake out. So made a lot of progress so far, moving along pretty good. Forgot to mention off camera after the last video, we went ahead and filled it up with oil again. But depending on how the water pump tube looks under there and how we fix that, I'll have to run to the parts store. But it's also a perfect time to, if I can get this paper towel out here. So our coil plugs right there, disconnect those and go ahead and put new spark plugs in this thing too. So when we get ready to race this thing, it'll be all good to go. Have fresh oil, fresh plugs, hopefully no coolant leak, and everything else I mentioned before. So that's a little update, but I'm gonna get back to this and I'll check back in a little bit. All right, so another update. We got the neck for the intake off. So the bolts are down there. I was able just to leave all the extra stuff on there, like the throttle body, the EGR valve right there, the idle air control. Left all that stuff on there. I was able to pull it off as one piece. Let me see if I can turn the light on for you guys. So got extremely dusty under there, but we got the neck off. Everything else is disconnected. It is just pulling these coil plugs off, these 2 bolts for the intake, Of course, the coolant line right here up front, which all the coolant's drained, and I'm actually going to pull this off and toss it because we ordered a new one. So quick backstory on that one. I've ordered the new one made by Canton like 2 or 3 times now. It's always on back order. It's on back order now, but I already ordered it, so I'm just gonna wait it out this time. So we're gonna get rid of this. Might upgrade the radiator while we're at this point. My dad just kind of suggested that to me because that is a stock radiator in there. But so that's what it looks like so far. It's definitely a good time to pull this intake off and clean it up. Really taking my time because I do not want to mess up the powder coat on that. But that same powder coat, the gloss black, is what we're gonna do with the Cobra intake for the 86. It was done by Mod Finish here in Colorado Springs. So when I get the intake back, that will be the plan with that. But I was able to, this bracket right here is for the Bullitt. I was able to pull it forward and tuck that EGR tube behind it. So hopefully that gives us just enough clearance to wiggle this intake out of there without scratching anything up. Like I said, I don't know just because of the edge of that bracket. All that stuff went in after last time. So we'll see. I would like to get that EGR tube out of there because it has 2 little pipes coming out the side of it. And I was constantly fighting last season the little vacuum lines popping off and then causing the car to idle funny. So I'd like to fully get that tube out of there, or possibly raise it up higher to where I could zip tie those 2 vacuum lines on the bottom of that, so I don't have to worry about that issue anymore. Other than that, when I put everything back together, I'm going to try to reroute some things to make it cleaner and easier to get to if I ever have to do it again. But yeah, so that's where we're at. We're going to go ahead and keep going, and definitely seems like we're going to be able to get this intake out of here today. All right, so I'm back with another update for you guys. So we got the intake off. It is over there. I was able to get it off by myself. Front of the intake has a nice little lip you can grab, and then I had my other hand down inside the neck, and you're able to reach up under there and grab too. So I was able to get it out by myself with the injectors and thermostat housing and stuff like that still on there. So I will show you guys this. Don't mind Fury barking. I'll also turn the light on for you guys so you guys can see how wet it is in there. And there is also the 8 wrench that I dropped in there last season and couldn't find it. So yeah, so this is the pipe I'm talking about fixing. I believe it's leaking from in here. So that is the game plan. Everything else looks fine. The gaskets are new. You know, you guys seen me put those on last season. So just gonna clean things up, clean the intake up, and try to fix this pipe. From my understanding, they make a new, they called it a, let's see, water pump nipple, I believe, for the back there. So I might end up ordering that. I think I seen it on American Muscle for 17 bucks, and that was what this pipe attaches to. If not, I don't know. I'm not quite sure what the fix is because this is the Bullitt pipe, and Ford doesn't make it anymore, so you can't find them unless you find them used. But you can clearly see that is where we had our coolant leak from. I'm snagged up right here. But so I think coolant was dripping back and ended up touching the exhaust from somewhere. Outside of that, I don't see any leaks, so we'll get that cleaned up. I'll get that wrench out of there, and we'll go from there. All right, guys, so we got the intake off. Light's bright. Turns out all that stuff in there was not coolant, it's oil. I don't know where it's coming from. Right now, we had a, there's this black cap in there, if you guys can see that. I popped that off, but from what I've read on the forums, that doesn't lead to anything. It doesn't do anything. The top of the coolant hose right there looks to be completely dry, so I don't think it is a coolant leak at this point. So what else we've read online is that it possibly could be from the PCV valve. All the crankcase pressure is blowing that oil and stuff by. Sorry for the dogs barking. So possibly need to run a oil catch can on this. So if any of you guys have experience with a catch can and can let me know how I'd even run one on this car, because I'm unfamiliar with that. We just have our breather with a check valve in there so no fluid can come out of here. So that we have that on that side. And right here, we have our PCV valve that goes in this hole right here of this valve cover with a check valve in there. And it leads up and goes into the neck of our intake right there. So that's how we have it all venting right now. I don't know if I can just leave that in the valve cover and run this line to an oil catch can. So if any of you guys have experience with that, please let me know in the comments. Got to pull this reservoir off because we got a new reservoir on the way, and like I said, with the subframe connectors and dry shaft safety loop. So this is going to be the stopping point for red today. I got to run to the parts store and get some spark plugs, and I want to do a little bit more research on how oil could be getting down there if that's the cause of it before I put everything back together. I'm really just trying to get this thing taken care of and then make sure that there's no leaks, especially since we are pushing this thing to its limits. So that is that. I don't know if the oil that was in this valley right here was dripping down, and why I keep thinking it's a rear main seal, and it's possibly whatever is causing this. So yeah, so that's gonna do it for this video. I'll turn this light off real quick. So please be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks.